Hi everyone, happy Wind Down Wednesday. I am Isis with Sistah Scifi. I'm working hard to make Wednesday your new favorite day of the week. So as you, hey Lacey, how are you? We will have Kalynn Bayron joining us shortly to discuss the Vanquishers. Hey, Beauty and a Book Retreat. I'm excited about the Jamaica trip. Um, yeah, so for those of y'all who are on our email list, you know that we are working on promoting a book retreat to Jamaica in 2023. So yeah, but that's neither here nor there. Today we will be talking about the Vanquishers. Hey, hanging on by a string. Oh, hey! Okay, awesome. So let me send you an invite, Kaylin. Working on that. So, Kaylin, you should have gotten it. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That was like magic. That was so easy. Hi, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So, I also watch from my laptop so I can respond to comments and post all that good stuff. So, if I look off, it's not like I'm not paying attention. I'm also just like watching the chat.
Okay.
Um, I think mommy says we're talking about again the Vanquishers, but we got praise for some of your other books. I love Poison Heart, so I'm excited to check out this new book.
Oh, yay.
Hey, 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 hey. So sometimes I get really excited about Wind Down Wednesdays and forget to like do introductions. So let's pause there. Would you please introduce yourself to the Sister Sci-Fi audience?
Yes. So, my name is Kalynn Bayron. I am a young adult and middle grade author. My previous works include Cinderella is Dead, This Poison Heart, and This Wicked Fate. And I am here today to chat with y'all about The Vanquishers, which is my middle grade debut.
Yeah, which the Vanquishers came out like a little over a week ago. So September 20th.
Yes, yes,
Um,
brand new.
brand spanking new, hot off the press. Um, Still in the speculative fiction world, but this one is more centered around vampires. I read the acknowledgments in the back. It seems like you cap for like vampire lore. So yeah,
Yes.
tell us about like you're like, yeah, I finally get to write about what was that journey for you? You're like, I'm finally gonna write a vampire middle grade novel.
Yeah, I knew I was gonna write a vampire novel at some point. I didn't know exactly where that journey was gonna take me or when I would be able to do it, but I decided to have it be my middle grade debut because I love vampire stories. I always have. I have read everything Anne Rice has ever written, and so it's kind of like I love vampire movies. But we don't always get to see us in these settings, either as vampires or as vampire slayers. So I wanted to do something really fun for a younger audience, um, just to kind of let my young readers know that there's a place for us in these paranormal type settings, which can be really fun and engaging for young people.
I agree with all that. So it's definitely a middle grade novel, but I so enjoyed the friendships and the multi
Yes.
generationality of it. So I'll ask you this question. So this actually came up after I finished reading the book and walking around. But so you tell by the cover. So these are brown kids. The setting is San Antonio, Texas, um, and the central issues aren't grounded in race or class. How was that decision for you as a writer?
Yeah, so it's something that I'm always aware of when I'm writing. I knew that I wanted this story. You know, so much of my other work, especially in Cinderella is Dead, really takes a hard stance against misogyny, homophobia, specifically misogynoir, and I I still will continue to talk about those things, but I had this middle grade story and I was like, I can approach this in a different way, which is I can center these black and brown kids and their beautiful black and brown and queer families and have just their existence be present and on the page, but not a source of pain or strife for them in this story, because I think we need a balance. And I think sometimes publishing has a tendency to laser focus on stories about pain and struggle. And so we need those stories because unfortunately we live in a world that guarantees young people will need tools to navigate those types of hurdles. But we also need stories that show us with our friends and having fun with our family and all of these things that we do as people. And so I really wanted to make it clear that these are black and brown kids, and they're beautiful and they're amazing. And I just wanted them to be at the middle of this vampire story.
Yeah, and I love that. Like there's a central conflict that drives the story. Like um, one of the young people in the school has ended up missing, but there isn't like trauma, like which was
Right.
nice. So sometimes you need to read something and like not like have to also deal with the trauma which you're reading. So I enjoyed that. I'll ask this question of you. Also ask this question for the people who are watching. Who are some of your favorite vampires? I'm excited about this question because for October for Black Speculative Fiction Month, Sistah Scifi will be celebrating Black vampires, including the Vanquishers. Who's one of your favorite vampires? And double points if it's a black or brown vampire.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. There are there are so many vampire stories that I love. I'm trying to think of like my favorite. Um, oh my goodness. I don't, my favorite stories, my favorite vampire stories were Anne Rice stories. That's what I had access to. I didn't get Fledgling by Octavia Butler until I was in college, just because that's not the book that people were handing to me.
Right.
But I have I have an affinity for Anne Rice's vampires. I love, Queen Akasha. She is my favorite. And probably Lestat is a close second. He's a terrible prince. He's the brat prince, of
Right.
vampires. But I yeah, I would say that those are my favorites. And I wish I had stories like this when I was younger, because I was really into vampires and was only finding kind of, as much as I love them, Anne Rice's vampires, which are predominantly white.
Right. Agreed. I think those are great vampire choices. I was like, what? Okay. I don't know. It was actually on an Instagram Live that I learned that they're, redoing Interview with a Vampire as a TV show on AMC. So you
Yes.
probably already know that.
Yes.
Um,
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, but I'm also just so hesitant because I want it to be right. And so yeah, I'm very excited about that.
there's also that. So I'm dropping the link for Queen Akasha. Um, So some of the people who've dropped their favorite vampires is the Vampire in Brooklyn, Eddie
Yep.
Murphy. Um, a lot of big ups for Shuri and Fledgling. I just was in a book club that talked about that. And then they talked Mommy Anna. I hope I'm pronouncing that hand name. I said talked about Joint, which is a black vampire comic book. So I
Hmm.
haven't read it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. So yay! And somebody else also mentioned the latest interview with the vampire. So cool. So going back to the Vanquishers. Now that I've done like my vampire fangirling, which character do you think was the most like you?
Um, there are kind of two answers to that question. So I think that my main character, her name is Malika, but her friends call her Boog. is a lot like me when I was 12. Um, but I think Boog's mom, Sam, is probably most like me. She is someone who just, and it's funny because, you know, the older I get, it's like now the, I can relate more to the parents of my protagonists than I can to the protagonists themselves. Um, but, you know, she's a woman who would do anything for her family, for her kids, for, you know, this group of kids that she is kind of, this family is, this extended family is this group of four kids and their parents and caregivers, which I love. And so Sam is there and she is, you know, loving on all these people. And, but she's also very concerned with their safety. She's concerned with their grades, and she's also concerned with, you know, vampires. So it's kind of like, you know, all of these things all in one. So I think Boog and her mom are most like me.
And that was so cute. So I read the story and I was like, I grew up in Houston, Texas. So like, and it's getting around on my bike. I live close to the train. So, but what I appreciated is like that really strong friend group that extended from the home to the classroom. Like for some reason, I hung out with different people at school than I did at home. And then also like it really creating like a neighborhood family, like the word of family extended beyond mom, dad, brother, sister.
Mhm.
What were some of the influences to creating that dynamic? Is that what you saw? Like, is that what you experienced as a child? Is that what you're experiencing now, like as like with your family? What influenced that structure?
Yeah, I think for me it was definitely the way that I grew up. I have one younger brother, and I'm 6 years older than him. But our friend group and their parents and caregivers, and you know, aunties and uncles and grandmas and, you know, everybody else kind of became just this extended family for us. And my auntie Rolanda was, you know, there for me just as much as anyone else. And so it was kind of like, I really love that dynamic. I really love this thought, you know, that family can be more than just the people you're related to, your blood. You know, it can be so much more than that. And I really wanted to showcase that. I really wanted to put that at the center of the novel because that was how it was for me.
It is beautiful. I appreciated the introduction of Miss Kim's character because she's new to the like she and her son are new to the neighborhood, and it's like even though they're new and they didn't grow up with our three main characters, like there's still space for them too. So when you're thinking about introducing that set of characters and how that dynamic would flow with the rest of the character set, what were some of your challenges? What were some of the opportunities for you as a writer?
Yeah, I bringing in Aaron and his mom to this, you know, to this very tight-knit group of people. I wanted to make sure that they were welcoming, but that there was still some hesitancy there just because of the history that we're dealing with in the city of San Antonio, in this version of reality that I've created in this story. But my way in was through the kids, because the kids are the ones who kind of, they meet up first and they're kind of like, you know, here's this new person. They know what it's like to feel like they're on the outside looking in because they're kind of singled out at school because their parents are old school and are not, you know, easing up on their vampire proofing, and it's kind of embarrassing for them. And so they kind of understand what it's like to be um, on the outside. And then here comes Aaron. He's very shy and he's quiet. And they're like, okay, you come with us. Like, you can sit with us. And then that extends to his mom as well. So I really wanted them to have, I wanted my main characters to have an opportunity to meet someone new and to figure out what it means to be friends with someone who, you know, you didn't grow up with, because I think the older you get, it can be a little tough to make new friends sometimes. And so I wanted them to have that experience, and I wanted them to watch their own parents also bringing Miss Kim into their circle, and that dynamic is just so much fun. It's so much fun to write.
Yeah, and to see how they gel and they mesh and they express caution and also welcoming light. So that was beautiful to read as well. So I'll ask you this question and also ask it of the group. I think I saw a comment. So the book is set in San Antonio because you wrote a lot of it in San Antonio and had a great experience as a writer in San Antonio. But where did you grow up? And in the world, I know it's in your bio somewhere. And then I'll ask that. So I can also ask that of people watching, where did everybody else watching grow up in the world? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah, I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. That is where I'm from. I live in New York now, but I grew up in Alaska, in Anchorage. And after I met my partner, we got to kind of travel around, and that's how we ended up in San Antonio. Um, but my dad's family is from Birmingham, Alabama. So we spent summers there, and then the rest of the time in Alaska. So that's kind of, I tell people that, and they're like, Alaska, like what? But yeah.
I went into, I'm like, oh, Alaska. Because it's like in the book, like you talk about the heat. I could, I'm like, oh, wow, that's so fascinating. Cat like Meow says, well, I have a friend from Anchorage. I've never
Yeah,
been to Alaska.
it's a nice place to visit. Not, I don't want to live there anymore, but yeah, it's a nice place to visit.
What took your family there? Was that like, oh, we just can't wait to get to Alaska? Like, were they in the military? Like,
Yeah, military and yeah, basically military. Yeah.
okay. So yeah, for those of y'all watching, drop in the chat where y'all grew up in the world and what y'all experiences there were like growing up there, just so I get a sense of where everybody's from. And now we know Kalynn grew up in Alaska. So that's very. So wait, is in Alaska? Do you have those long nights?
Yeah,
Like it's
so
or which I meant to say, like in the other
yeah,
parts of Alaska.
yeah, we get the really long, the really dark winters. Right in the middle of the winter, it is dark all the time. And then in the summer, it's the opposite. So it's daytime all the time. Um, those huge shifts, it's a lot to deal with. But and then the winter is just so long and tough. Um, it's a beautiful place to visit, especially in the summer.
Yeah. And did you see? I'm gonna mispronounce it. Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights,
Oh
where
yeah,
you
the
grew up?
Northern
Yeah,
Lights.
that's what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it's like it just it doesn't even feel real. Like it's so beautiful. I would highly suggest going to visit. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So we all need to go to Alaska, but not move there just to check it out. Kat is from DC. Maya, who's Supernova, is a military brat, but she lives in California now. We have somebody from Georgia. Um, I'm wondering if that's Atlanta. And then BP grew up between, I think that's Mississippi and California. So awesome, awesome, awesome. So back to the Vanquishers. Um, oh, and now I mean like that. So Jules intentionally goes by they them pronouns. And it's
Yes.
just like a matter of fact, there's no like, oh, so what are your preferred gender pronouns? It's just like this is like how did that come into the book? And what do you want readers of all like young readers, older readers to take away from that fact?
Yeah, so Jules's character is hugely inspired by my 15-year-old who is also non-binary. And it was really important to me to have it's always important to me to have queer characters who just get to exist. They don't have to have their identity kind of it's very clear on the page, but it's not a huge introduction. It's not a coming out. It's not any of those things. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just prefer to do things for this story in this way, where it was just kind of it's just there on the page. Jules is who they are, and everyone understands that, and that's it. And I just wanted it to be that simple for them.
And it was actually really that simple. You're like, I'm like, for me as a reader, I'm like, Jules is gender non-conforming. Like, I get it, and that's it. Just like Cedric has two dads. Like, I get it, and I'm
Yes.
here for it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah, and it was nice to have like two dads and like a stepdad. It's like it wasn't like again, it's that departure from the stereotypical nuclear family, which I appreciated.
I really, really enjoy showcasing all different types of families. We have, Cedric has two dads, and Boog has mom and dad, and Jules has their grandma and their mom. So all these different ways that we kind of exist, that we're able to exist as a family, I think is really nice to put in there, just to let more readers know that that there's a place for them.
Okay, so there's so much I want to talk about, but a lot of them are plot twists. So then I'm like, we're not going to talk about them because they're plot twists. Um, so I'm like, how do I ask this question? And then I have a list of other questions that were kind of from the book. How do you, as a writer, decide what plot twist to have? So, because you can have plot twist of who is the villain. You could have plot twist about like we thought this was bad and done, and it's actually back, and it's closer than you think. So how do you decide like what the plot twist is going to be, or does it kind of come as you're writing?
I for me it really does come through as I'm writing, but I think it's because I read so much. It's kind of like my I read so many different types of stories, and I read so many books every year that these plot points kind of pop up for me in my own narrative as I'm creating these stories. It's kind of, my brain is kind of like, okay, right about now is when someone's going to come along who's a red herring, or right now there we need to have a reversal where it's something that we didn't see coming, or that we thought was one way, now we have to switch it around. Those plot points just kind of fall into place for me, but making them all line up and work is, thank God for the revision process and good editors, because sometimes it's a little, I confuse myself. So um so that process for me, it really does come during the drafting process, those plot twists. And I love a good plot twist. Sometimes I like it when you can see it coming, because that means I've laid the foundation really well so that you can know what to expect. And sometimes I like it to just come out of left field and completely turn things around. So either way, it's something that comes to me as I'm drafting, and usually in revisions as well. There's things that change.
What's something that changed from like, let's go with your first story outline to like the final book? If you feel like
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. I so the first draft was was a lot longer. It was kind of a story. There's going to be a book two, but that the first draft of the Vanquishers was much longer, and I realized that I was kind of going into a second story arc right near the end, and so I had to kind of trim that back in order to have that be the start of book two, and just kind of um, pick up the story from there. So I think that's probably the biggest change, is just the length of the story. I cut about I cut about 30,000 words at the end, to move to a different story. And most of that is still intact as I'm finishing up the draft for book two. But I think I think also the nature of the vampires was something that evolved through the writing process, because I was originally just a little hesitant about making them too monstrous, and but I find that young readers do not want to be talked down to. They don't want things to be kind of oversimplified for them. They understand, and can follow exactly what I'm saying, and not, I don't have to, I don't have to oversimplify things for them. So I was able to kind of keep the nature of the vampires intact as these very kind of scary, monstrous beings. Um, but I did, in the beginning, it was more tame.
Got it. So let's talk about the vampires, right? So in the Vanquishers, I just want to hold it up again because I love this cover. And them on bikes just remind me of my childhood. Um, Vampires are scary and they're dangerous, right? And there's also some nuance about that, but they're also not romanticized, right? So I understand like wanting to have that complexity even for a younger audience, but how did you balance like which vampire lore are you going to like follow and when are you going to deviate?
Yeah, so there was a lot of research because I wanted to bring in some vampire lore that maybe isn't, I mean, I feel like we all kind of know about garlic and holy water and things like that, but it and steaks. But there was a lot of vampire lore that I wanted to bring in to really create vampires that were complicated and much more kind of detailed than just either a monster or something that you can romanticize. I came across this lore about vampires that are confused by rhymes, and they're confused by knots, like knot tying, and stories about, if a vampire is coming after you, you throw some rice on the ground and they'll stop because they have to count every grain of rice. And it's like all of these, very, all of this very strange lore comes into the process. And so the vampires themselves became, um, a they became much more nuanced than I expected them to be, which is always nice to kind of surprise yourself when you're writing.
Yeah, and to speak of the nuance of the vampires, so this is Cedric. So one of the main characters talking, it's like um, they're all about kinds of blood-sucking creatures from all over the world. And then we talk about the Strioki, the Bricolakas, and the Penagannelans. I'm dyslexic, so that was a struggle for me. So I apologize. You like if you're like it's
No,
not how to be pronounced.
you're good.
I apologize in advance. So yeah, where did that bit of research come from?
Yeah, that was those types of kind of undead creatures. Not everything is always kind of categorized as a vampire. There are these other types of creatures and that exist in different lore throughout the world, and some of them have similar properties to vampires as we know them. And so I feel like over time it's kind of like a game of telephone. Things have been added, things have been left out, and now we have these vampires who, for a lot of us here, with the media that we consume, are like these very attractive, seductive characters. And I really wanted to kind of get back to uh the kind of original thought that they were really monstrous and scary. And so yeah, so that research was all just, I had so much fun just researching vampires and all of the little stories about them, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Um, so going back to Sam, who is Malika's mom, who's like hyper conscious with like her vampire repellent. And I was like, oh, this feels like somebody who's like still. I'm one of those people still hyper cautious about COVID, even though people are like, is that? It's like, but is it really that? How much did like people and their sensitivity or caution around COVID influence how the parents are navigating their vampire precautions, or was that just something that just me as a reader?
Yeah, no, it was definitely something that was on my mind because it's kind of like, um, there's a group of people who are saying this thing is over and we don't have to worry about it anymore. And then there's another group of people who are saying, well, um, even if that's partially true, or even if that's all the way true, I still want to take these precautions because I just don't want to take any chances. That there was a direct parallel there, and the kind of thinking that goes into that. I think we see that a lot in this story. It's kind of like people who either vampire proof, or people who don't, or people who maybe do it a little bit but they've become a little lax. It was all very, very you know, it was all right at the front of my mind as I was writing this story. And it's still kind of funny how many parallels there are, and how we're still in this thing. And it's kind of like I'm looking around, and I'm the only one wearing a mask, and it's like people are probably looking at me like I have lost my mind. But it's but those are the precautions that I want to take. And so that is what Malika's family and the families of the other kids are going through. They're kind of saying, we don't want to take any chances, and everybody else is saying, well, you could take some chances, it's okay. And they're very resistant to that.
Right. No, I agreed. I was like, if there's any chance that vampires, like, yes, I want all the silver and all the garlic and
Right.
all the things. I want all the mirrors everywhere. Like,
Yes.
Yeah. And some people are like that. So I was like, 20 years ago, it's nothing like anywhere. So I can understand that. So even in the Vanquishers, vampires are monsters. For me, what I also enjoyed about the book is that there's no, like, to me, there did not seem to be like a supervillain. Like, this is the root of all evil and danger, and they're like just bad, right? What is that the correct perception? And how is it like writing that nuance, like as that's writing that nuance.
No, I was thinking about kind of what it feels like when you're 12 years old and when you have a problem that is kind of local. Like in this world, we're talking about San Antonio, we're talking about what's going on in San Antonio. What does that feel like when when there's a problem kind of in your community? You're not vampires are kind of a worldwide thing in this story as well, but we're not really too concerned with that. We're more concerned with like what's happening in Malika's bubble. And that I think that's kind of how it is for a lot of us. We are worried about what's happening right in front of us, the things we have to deal with on a daily basis. And especially when you're a kid, it's kind of like thinking beyond that can be a challenge. But sometimes it feels like everything in your world is just so fragile. And it's like it feels like the end of the world, but it's not, or to you maybe it feels that way, and that's valid as well. So I really wanted to focus on these very kind of the problems that were directly affecting Boog and her circle of friends and her family. And it was nice to have it in San Antonio, which is where I was living, because it's nice to kind of look around and take all of these influences from this place that I was at and really make it feel like it was about this place and this time with these kids. And
that's just like so key. Like, there's so much going on in the world, and like that focus really about like Malika and her family and her community and her school, right? And etc. I have more questions about the book, but I just want to pause for Maya's question in the chat. Are those Funko Pops from your book, The Poison Heart? And I mean, it looks like it is. But I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, so there's Briseis, and there's Maria's up here too. And I also have Sophia and Constance from Cinderella is Dead. I had these made because they're just so cute and I love them. So yeah, that's them.
Yay! Love it. Okay, so this is also in the book, and it kind of like warmed my heart. Well, Malika's like, I am going to organize a protest for like this dress code reminder shenanigans. Because I was like, I never had the balls to organize any type of protest, but I felt like it was very, it's something I had to navigate a lot. So when you decided to put that in the story, it felt to me as to tell us the type of person that Malika is, but also to address something that many students have to navigate in schools. What were you hoping the readers would take away from that?
Yeah, exactly that. I really wanted to showcase the kind of person that Boog is, and also the type of person that she is uh, becoming, because she doesn't have everything all figured out. She makes missteps and mistakes, and that's okay. And so I wanted to showcase that, and um, she's such a fun character to write because she really does have all of these really big ideas, and uh, she's super concerned with what's going on with her and her friends and her family, but she has all these bigger ideas, and it's nice to be able to write a character who is so young but is kind of navigating a world where she will have to address all of these things at some point. And um, so yeah, I that was exactly what I was hoping readers would take away from it.
Yay. So speaking of organizing and protesting, in the acknowledgments, you speak about the impact of different banned books on the Vanquishers. So, what is your experience been as a writer, and how can readers be advocates for their schools and their libraries against banned book initiatives?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can do is to try to get involved at a local level. If you are able to attend your school board meetings in your district, if you can run for school board seats, that's even better. But also just being present, asking questions aloud. A lot of this book banning is happening behind closed doors, where people think that they will just get away with it. So we have to be vocal in our opposition to censorship. And my personal experience is that my debut novel, Cinderella's Dead, has been challenged and banned in multiple districts across the country. And This Poison Heart is also getting caught up in that. And so uh, I'm incredibly disheartened by the efforts to ban books, because it centers uh, most of the banning centers either BIPOC characters and authors, or queer authors, or some intersection of those marginalized identities. And it's very clear what the motive is. And so I would encourage people to support BIPOC authors and queer authors, and also get involved. We need all the support we can get at all levels. So please get involved with your school board meetings, with openings on the board. Be vocal in your opposition to what is happening, because it is hurting our young readers.
Agreed. So, I'm going to to drop some links on how to get involved against banned book initiatives. Um, So, on a lighter note, on a happier note, so The Vanquishers is the first of a series. Will it be a duology? Will it be a trilogy? Will it be something more than that? Give us the tea.
Let's see. So right now, I'm thinking 3 books. I'm thinking a trilogy. That seems about right for me. But I'm not going to really know until I get to that third book and feel like if I can wrap it up and I feel happy with that, then we'll be good. And if not, we will do a fourth book. So it's really about how I'm feeling at the time. But right now I see it as a trilogy, and I'm really excited about continuing the story of Boog and her friends and her family, because book 2 is just is shaping up to be something really special.
Yeah, and I mean, like, book one was super special, so I'm excited because, like, in book two, we're in the world, like, yeah, so we're in the world, so we're invested in the characters. Will we get to see Boog and her friends grow up? Will it be more condensed in the time period? What are you thinking as a writer?
Yeah, we are going to kind of pick up right where things left off in book one with book two, but I'm really excited. So we'll get to see Boog through the end of her sixth grade year and into the summer, where some very key kind of pivotal things happen. But I'm also really excited to dig into the history of the Vanquishers themselves and what that looks like when you have a group of masked slayers, through the ages, and what is that, what is that history, and how does that impact what Boog is going through in book two. I'm very excited about getting to that.
Right. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna ask this question, but it's really something that like you should read and discover, and I don't want to take that away from the readers who are watching. So yeah, I'm like, okay, then ask the question. What is something that you hope a reader will take away once they finish this book and the trilogy?
Yeah, I hope that my young readers, I hope that they come away from this story understanding that there is a place for these amazing, Black and brown kids in the center of a paranormal mystery. I think it's a space that so many of us kind of look into and enjoy, but kind of feel like we're on the outside looking in. I really want my young readers to feel like they can and should be a part of these types of stories. I also hope that that my young readers will have fun, because this is really a fun adventure, mystery, paranormal type thing, and so I just want them to have fun. That's really, if you just walk away from the book and you're just like, that was a really fun read, I'm happy.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's powerful. Like books where you like have fun, like you read it, you
Yeah.
have fun, you have a good time, and it centers characters who are typically marginalized in other stories. So I think both of those are important. Um, San Antonio and Texas plays a major part. Like there's one part, it's like, tell me you're from, I think it's like, they say Texas and or San Antonio. I was like, yeah, as somebody who had to take Texas history for several years, I hear that. Do you feel like for people who did grow up in Texas, I don't consider myself a Texan, this would be a segue into like interest in Texas history?
I'm so sorry, but you cut out just a little bit right there at the
Oh,
end.
so sorry. For people who did not grow up in Texas, would this spark interest in Texas history?
I I hope so, because as someone who also didn't, I didn't grow up in Texas, but I lived there um, for about 5 years, while I was during the process of writing The Vanquishers and a little before. Um, there are things that you think you know about Texas, and then you live there and you realize that's not the real Texas. There's other things there. I think when I moved to Texas, I thought I knew like what was going on with the Alamo and what that story was about. And then you realize what actually happened, and you're like, wait a minute, this is a whole other thing. And the Alamo is everywhere in Texas. The Alamo is literally, for anybody who doesn't know, the Alamo is in San Antonio. It's literally like right in downtown San Antonio, and that plays into the book. Because the kids are down there at Travis Park, and I hope that it sparks kind of an interest in what's going on in Texas. And I also hope that it reminds people that regardless of what is happening kind of on a political landscape, there are kids living in Texas, in San Antonio, in places like San Antonio and lots of other places, who really are, and families and people and communities who who deserve all the good things. So we can't just write places off. We have to continue to find a way to move forward.
And that's a really powerful one because when I left Texas, I'm like, I'm not coming back. And y'all can keep Texas. But that's but that is a good reminder. It's like just because you're not in that state, right? it doesn't mean like there's no consideration for the advocacy there, like our community that continues to be in states like Texas and Alabama and parts of
Yep.
Florida and Georgia. So that's a great
Yep.
reminder.
Yeah.
Um, I appreciate that. Um, talked about the dress code. We talked about so Miss Lambert. I've read the book. Did you have a teacher like her? Is that what inspired the story? And I think I can say this. I thought that I was ready for some kind of plot twist about Miss Lambert, and I was like, oh, oh, okay.
Um, yeah, Miss Lambert is yeah, she's kind of a mashup of multiple different teachers that I've had in my life throughout my life. She is that that teacher that kind of, lets you kind of slide on things and maybe helps you out a little more than other people just because you guys have, this bond. But it's, but still professional, but maybe lets you have a little extra recess or I had teachers like that who were just they were the cool teachers, and that is what she is to me. And she is that for Boog and her friends as well, and I just really wanted to have her be another kind of positive kind of adult figure in their lives, and they spend so much of their time at school. I had to find a way to kind of mirror those relationships that these kids are having at home with their family and their friends. What does that look like at school, and do they have support there? I didn't want them to go into a school environment and not have support, because I think a lot of our educators are just completely undervalued. They do so much good work, and so I really wanted to kind of showcase that.
Aw, yeah, I appreciate that. It was sweet to read. Even though I kept, I was like, I said, you're too cynical. I was like, but what? So, yeah. Um, um, what is one thing that I mean, no spoilers. What's one thing that you're really excited about book two? So I understand, like, there's some crucial points, but what's one thing that you're really like, oh, I think my readers are going to love this?
I think my readers are really gonna love the kind of weaponry that I get to bring into book two. We don't really, we have some kind of smaller references to the Vanquishers' weapons and what those look like, but it's so much more detailed in book two, and we really get to dig into what those look like and how they function and how it's kind of this intersection of science and practical kind of fighting skills, and all of these things combined to make these vanquishers kind of stand out, and their weaponry is so much fun. I really like to try and make things fun and interesting and have a fun backstory, and so I'm able to kind of do that in book two, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to, I think, will be my last question. If y'all have any questions for Kalynn, drop them in the chat. Um, for it to be speculative fiction, right? We're looking at like vampire lore. Science plays a big, or there are a lot of characters who are scientists in the story. So Sam is a scientist. I think Miss Kim works in a lab, and Cedric's dads are engineers. Um, was that intentional? And like, what do you feel like your responsibility as a writer is to like introduce your readers to like the world of science or working hypotheses or all that fun stuff?
Yeah, it's something that I did intentionally because I feel like there's this really interesting intersection between kind of mythology and cultural practices, and then science. And a lot of times we think about those things being in opposition uh, to one another, but to have them kind of combined and have all of these things mixed together, it really it makes for a very interesting story to tell. And so I wanted to be able to talk about what vampirism is and how that affects the human body. And so it was nice to have Miss Kim, who can kind of give us an overview of how this thing affects the human body. And then we also have Boog's mom, who is doing some amazing research on like the vampire's ability to heal wounds, and maybe, you know, trying to find a way to make that a practical use out of that for everyday people. It's fascinating to me, and I wanted to have those kind of ins for talking about science and its applications when we're dealing with vampires, because there's got to be, you know, I'm thinking if this was a real world situation, there's got to be some intersection of people, you know, scientists who are interested in what this looks like and how this works. So that's why those characters are there. They give me a really nice in to talk about it.
Yay! I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. So that the Vanquishers, I dropped the link in the chat a couple times. So purchases from Sistah Scifi or your favorite indie bookstore, or check it out from your library, but just read it and talk to your friends about it, and talk to the young people in your life about it. Or if you're a young person, then yeah, this book is for you. We have about 13 minutes left, which means we get to transition into my second favorite portion of Sistah Scifi Wind Down Wednesday. My first favorite is everything we've been doing thus far. And my second favorite is this or that. So I'll ask you, do you prefer this or that? You respond with the first thing that comes in to you. Sorry, I'm also looking at the chat. That's kind of this or that, like what the first thing that comes into your mind. For those who you're watching, you can drop your response in the chat. The questions will seem really familiar because I ask a lot of the same questions week over week. And Kalynn, if you are like, I have this or that, feel free to offer it to the group, and maybe it'll make my weekly rotation. Any questions? Yay! Maya's currently reading the Vanquishers and This Wicked Fate. So you have a fan.
Yay.
Yeah. Awesome. So first, this or that. It's one of my favorites. Luke Cage or Black Lightning?
Oh, Luke Cage.
Okay. Awesome. And for those of you in the chat, let me know. I'm always team Black Lightning, but why do you prefer Luke Cage?
I think I'm just not as knowledgeable about Black Lightning as I should be.
That's fine.
That's why, yeah.
Very good. So the next question is, since we're on, this is a new one just for you. Blackula or Ganja and Hess?
Oh. I'm gonna say Blackula.
Great choice. That's a new one. I like both of them, so you couldn't go wrong. Next one is Eartha Kitt Catwoman or Halle Berry Catwoman?
Oh, Eartha Kitt. I love Halle Berry. I really do. I love her so much, but Eartha Kitt, yes.
Okay, awesome. We're aligned. What's the next one? I'm gonna ask this because Wakanda's coming out soon. So T'Challa, Black Panther in the first one, or Killmonger?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one. Okay, I'm gonna say T'Challa just because, you know, I that's Chadwick Boseman. But I would like to say that I understand Killmonger's point of view, and I think he had some very valid points.
Agree. So 100% aligned, and that's a question that's new just for you. And then my last question is Erykah Badu or Janelle Monáe?
Oh no, I can't. I can't. Okay, if I had to choose, I'm gonna say Janelle Monáe, just because Janelle Monáe is through it, I make playlists for every book that I write, and their music is there just all the time. Dirty Computer, just it's everywhere. So Janelle Monáe.
Okay. And that means I need to ask you for the playlist for the Vanquishers, please and thank you.
Yeah, and I do have one. It's on Spotify, so I need to kind of link that because I don't even think I'm trying to think. I don't think I've linked that anywhere. I don't think. So yeah, I will. I got to put that up. Yeah.
Yeah, you can send it to your publicist and she can send it to me, or you can whatever feels best. But yeah, that sounds exciting. I want to hear that playlist. Okay, so this is kind of this or that. So if the Vanquishers was adapted to TV or movie or something that required an actress, who would you want to play Boog?
Oh. Oh man, that is a really good question. I think that the Vanquishers would make an excellent TV show. I'm just going to put that out there. As far as actresses, I really everybody that I'm thinking of is too old. So they're still young people, but like I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure.
And also, before you say they're too old, Stacey Dash was 31 when she was in Clueless. The woman who played the main character in The Woman King, the daughter, was like, the actress is 31 years old and she was playing a 19-year-old. I was like, so.
Yeah. So I think that Marseille Martin would be great, but again, I don't know if she could pass for 12, but like I just love her and I think she's wonderful. So yeah, so I'm gonna go with that. And I don't know, maybe they can age it up for TV or something. I don't know. We'll see.
When we share this, we'll tag this like Marseille Martin. Let's make this happen. Not that like she's looking, but you never know. So, yay! Did you have any this or that you wanted to share with the community? And no pressure. If you're like, no, I don't have any. You didn't prepare me for this. That's totally fine.
I'm trying to think. Oh my goodness. I don't have one. I don't have one. I'm so sorry. I was gonna say like okay, well let's see. Let's say this or that. Biscoff cookies or Maria cookies. Which one? Because I know which one I'm gonna pick.
I think Maria cookies are the soft baked ones. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
soft bake all day, every day.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I love Biscoff way too much. Like I put it in the acknowledgments of one of my books because I eat them so often. So yeah.
Okay. It's true. It's true. Okay, so I chose wrong, but I know if I ever
There's no wrong answer.
Right. Okay. This was amazing. Let me I think I got everything in the comments. Yes. One more time. So if you're looking to buy a copy of The Vanquishers, we're in stock on Sistah Scifi, or you can get it from your favorite indie bookstore, but of course that's also Sistah Scifi, or your favorite public library, or you can get the audiobook or the ebook, all those good things. Yeah. Cinderella is Dead is also amazing. And all the books by Kalynn, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I'm so happy that you were here today answering our questions. I don't think anything else. What is anything you'd like to say? Closing thoughts? I'm just really, really, really appreciative.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much for having me. Has been an amazing conversation, and I'm so happy to be able to talk about the Vanquishers. Books like these sometimes get overlooked, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity just to talk about it with you. And I'm really appreciative of my readers, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. And then, so this Wind Down Wednesday is part of a tour for you. Where are you going to be next? It's particularly in person.
Let's see. So I have I'm going to be at the keynote kind of author event in Denver on Thursday, and then I will be at New York Comic Con. And that weekend I have the date up somewhere on my social media. I think it's the 9th. I'm not 100% sure. And then yeah, and then I have a couple more tour stops coming up, but I will make sure I post those on my social media because I don't have times locked down quite yet. But yes, I will be out here, and I hope to see some of you.
Yeah. So I would not be at Comic Con, so I have a favor. So I know you'll be super busy, but they're giving highlights of Kindred, and I'm just like dying to know like what how much
Yeah.
shenanigans do I have to endure for the show.
Yeah.
So if you could see the trailer before anybody else, that would make my day. And like, but yeah, so enjoy all
Yeah.
the enjoy Denver, enjoy New York Comic Con, and have a great book tour. Thank you for joining Sister Sci-Fi and discussing the book and answering questions, and but most importantly, writing an amazing book that features that features vampires where we're seen. Um, that's really magical.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everyone.